Belgium, the land of mussels and chips, craft beers, and some of the best chocolate in the world. However, VisualPolitik viewers, in a few years, Belgium may be better known for being the narco-state of the European Union. Yes, you heard me correctly. Its most important seaport, Antwerp, has become the largest gateway for illegal narcotics in Europe. Various underworld groups are making a killing trafficking substances such as cocaine and methamphetamine. And to maintain this business, they are willing to do anything. So on VisualPolitik, we have asked ourselves several questions. How has Belgium become something like Pablo Escobar's European dream? How is this all affecting the daily lives of Belgian citizens? And more importantly, what is being done to combat it? Today on VisualPolitik, we're going to answer these questions, but before we continue, I'm sure you've started the year with some resolution or other. Maybe to exercise more, or spend less money on a certain brand of coffee, or to get serious about a language. Well, with Speakly, all excuses are squashed. With Speakly, you can learn languages like Spanish, French, German, Italian, and of course, English. We know that some of you are not native English speakers, and one of your goals is to improve your English. Speakly offers you everything you need to learn or reinforce a new language. You will learn new vocabulary, practice with oral, written, and listening exercises, and they even have a section with recommended songs for you. And take note, because Speakly's methodology is proven. It has been proven to show results 5 times faster than the usual apps. By practicing only 30 minutes a day, you could have a solid conversational level in about 3 to 4 months. Don't wait any longer, stop making excuses, and start learning languages in 2023 with Speakly. Download the app, which is available for both Android and iOS, and try it totally free for 7 days. If you want to go for the annual subscription, take advantage of the 60% discount for the VisualPolitik community. We'll leave you the link in the description.
Antwerp, the European hub for narcotics.
Located in the heart of Europe, Antwerp is an atypical port because it is not on the coast, but 80 kilometers or 50 miles inland at the mouth of the Scheldt estuary. In fact, it is precisely this peculiarity that makes the port of Antwerp the second busiest port on the European continent. To give you an idea, the port of Antwerp has 50 kilometers. That's 30 miles of quays that are connected to the European hinterland by rail, road, waterways, and canals. On these quays, 11 million containers are unloaded every year. In total, more than 235 million tons of goods enter the old continent annually using this port, twice as much as just 20 years ago. 11 million containers. At rough count, we're talking about more than 30,000 containers every day. And just think, maritime trade offers the same advantages to drug trafficking as any other industry. Containers transport high volumes of goods at a relatively low cost. As you can imagine, controlling what arrives in each of these containers is practically an impossible mission for the 700 customs agents at the port of Antwerp. That's because the port's figures are completely overwhelming. These 700 agents have to supervise 60,000 workers, from stevedores, crane operators, and the rest of the port professionals. And of course, as you can imagine, in such large baskets, there are always a few bad apples. The fact is that corruption has penetrated the port of Antwerp over the last few years. Underworld groups have managed to infiltrate port workers as moles. In this way, they have the ability to find out who might be more likely to accept a bribe. We are usually talking about a lot of money, several thousand euros, for jobs as simple as providing some information. And if the worker in question does not agree to be bought, he or she can always be intimidated with threats. That is why it is believed that the number of people working for criminal organizations in the port is increasing. Through its tunnels with large format scanners, the port of Antwerp currently monitors 1 out of every 200 containers. So you can imagine how crucial it could be to have information about the day-to-day business at the port. Customs officers look for smuggled goods, counterfeit goods, and above all, white powders from Latin America. And of course, I'm not talking about sugar or even salt. Coca has become one of the queens of the Antwerp Harbour Party. It is precisely for this reason that trade with South America is particularly targeted by customs teams. Drug traffickers take advantage of shipments of fresh fruit such as bananas and pineapples to hide their special merchandise inside. Yeah, that's right. And many of you will ask, why in fresh fruit? Well, if you think about it, this is one of the main exports from South America to Europe. So in theory, it should not be a shipment that would put customs on alert. Another very important detail is that we are talking about perishable products, which makes the rush to be distributed quickly through the markets much greater. In addition, a container container of fruit is just one of the thousands that circulate through Antwerp every day. So the chances of hiding the narcotics are enormous, and the risk of being detected is minimal. The business model of the underworld groups is to ship as many containers loaded with narcotics as possible en masse. They are aware that they can afford to lose 10 to 20% of their cargo at customs. Such a loss would be fatal to the profitability of any other industry, but not for drug traffickers, especially Colombian traffickers, for whom Europe is becoming their main market. One of the keys to this modus operandi is that the main profit in the cocaine industry is not in retail sales or production, rather it is in transportation. According to estimates, the cocaine producer's margin can be 150% of the cost of production. The profit margin of the sale to the consumer is 300%. But in the case of transport from its place of origin to the final market, this can reach 1500%, depending on where in Europe it ends up. And more than one of you may be wondering, why are we talking about Europe and not other places? Well, it is fundamentally a question of profitability. The street price of cocaine is higher in Europe than in the United States. But wait a minute, because there are more reasons. Christian van der Weren, Director General of Belgian Customs, explains to us who has more interest in having drugs flow to Europe than to the North American giant.
The Colombian and other cartels, they don't have to work with the Mexican cartels, which are in between and who take the most profit of the drugs who is exported to the United States. You don't have the Mexican cartels involved with the Colombian production.
So the question is, who are, in this case, playing the role of the Mexican characters? Who are the middlemen? Well, it seems that they are mainly groups from the Balkans, distant relatives of the Albanians who crossed paths with Liam Neeson in the movie Taken. These mafia-style groups have built an empire worth billions of euros. They have made contact with Latin American cartels and have expanded shipping routes to Europe, which is boosting their profits. The main countries where cocaine is produced for European clients are Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. But be careful, because transportation is a different story. Drugs are starting to be transported from places that are not so tainted by drug trafficking. In the case of the cocaine found in Belgium, the drugs are arriving from Ecuador, particularly from the container port of Guayaquil. We've talked about this in VisualPolitik, the Latin American newsletter that Patreon members receive. So the drugs are arriving from Ecuador, but also from Suriname. The fact is that the drug trade in Antwerp is growing and attracting underworld groups from all over the world. Organized crime is trying to dominate this market, something that is unleashing an unprecedented wave of violence. And the question is, how is this affecting the good people of Antwerp? Well, let's take a look.
Skyfall.
In 2021, Belgian authorities seized 90 tons of cocaine at the port of Antwerp, almost 40% of all cocaine seized in the European Union. For 2022, the numbers are expected to have been very similar, and it is even possible that the Belgian authorities' forecast of reaching 100 tons seized during that year will have been met. Drug traffickers are using Antwerp as their gateway to Europe, and the volumes are increasing year after year, as Florence Angelisi of Belgian Customs acknowledges.
If you compare to 5 years before, it's up to 50% more. So every year we break a new record, and we would like to stop this record.
These continuing records have brought about a marked change in drug trafficking to the European continent. Traditionally, cocaine traveled mainly from Colombia, and it was the southern coasts of Europe that received the shipments. However, that has changed. There are two northern countries that have just overtaken Spain as the preferred countries of choice for the Pablo Escobars of the moment.
Belgium and the Netherlands are now Europe's major cocaine hubs, Europol.
However, the fact that cocaine seizures have increased in Belgium is not something that has fallen out of the sky. It is a result of 2 years of police investigation, culminating in what is known as Operation Sky ECC. Sky ECC is the name of a Canadian app that offers an encrypted messaging service. In case you didn't know, encrypting communications is the first subject in the Professional Criminals Handbook. So, it seems that Sky ECC was in the top downloads for cocaine kingpins. That's why police forces in several countries set themselves the goal of cracking this app. The investigation was successful and intercepted 1 billion messages. 1 year after Operation Sky ECC was launched, the results are spectacular.
Operation Sky ECC. 888 suspects and 4.5 billion euros worth of drugs drugs seized.
The fall of Sky ECC brought to light a large network of legitimate companies created expressly to import drugs from South America to launder the profits reaped. It also revealed a bitter truth, which is that the kingpins are not hiding in big mansions of Brussels, but in luxurious villas in places as exotic and far away as Dubai, so it is much more difficult to catch them. Be that as it may, 4.5 billion euros is no small change, and the underworld groups did not take the sting lying down. They responded as you would expect from the bad guys in the movie, with a violent revenge that puts all Belgians under threat. They want to cause fear, and have even attempted to kidnap Vincent van Quickenborn, the current Minister of Justice, after he announced a plan to fight drug trafficking in Antwerp. Van Quickenborn himself has no doubts about what is going on in Belgium, and sums it up in one word: narco-terrorism.
Maar ik denk dat we nu in een nieuwe fase zijn beland, dat is de fase van het narco-terrorisme. Dus vroeger waren er afrekeningen in de onderwereld, er waren rivaliserende bendes. Maar nu is men in een volgende stap getreden waar men werkelijk er niet voor terugdeinst om mensen, magistraten, ook journalisten, en nu blijkbaar ook politici werkelijk afdreigt.
The truth is that Belgium suffered the worst summer in 2022 in living memory in terms of violence. Brussels and Antwerp made headlines with shootings, arson, stabbings, and even grenade attacks on homes and businesses. There is a battle for territory and to control the epicenter of cocaine in Europe, because the fact is that an uncomfortable truth prevails despite the success of Operation Sky ECC. And this is because the cocaine market, although illegal, does not escape the law of supply and demand. Despite all the tons seized by the authorities, the street price of cocaine has not increased and remains stable at around 50 euros per gram. This is a sign that the drug continues to enter Europe very easily. In other words, we're talking about an enormously lucrative market. Authorities arrested about 160 people in the port of Antwerp in 2021. Still, it is a city where it is as easy to get white powder as it is to order a pizza, and yet it is probably still too early to speak of Belgium as a narco-state. But let no one doubt that in 10 years it could become one if they fail to stop the current trend. So the question, therefore, is, what do the Belgian authorities intend to do to curb drug trafficking? And take note, because this whole issue has a political reading that is as unexpected as it is surprising. Check it out.
Flamenco against Vivaldi.
Antwerp is the most populous city in Flanders, a region that is home to a powerful nationalism led by the New Flemish Alliance. This party has received the most votes in the last 3 Belgian federal elections, but it was only part of the federal government during one legislature and did not even lead it. It is most often part of the opposition, and its leader is Bart de Vive, mayor of Antwerp for the last 10 years. De Vive is the leading political figure of Flemish nationalism and is now taking advantage of the drug-related violence in Antwerp to attack the Belgian federal government, the Vivaldi coalition government. Vivaldi is the nickname given in Belgium to the federal government coalition that since 2020 brings together representatives of 4 different political families. The nickname refers to the 4 seasons by the Italian composer Antonio Vivaldi, with the green of the ecologists embodying spring, the red of the socialists summer, the orange of the Flemish Christian Democrats autumn, and the blue of the market centre-right as the winter. Of course, De Vive's critics consider it opportunistic to use drug trafficking for political purposes. In other words, they see it as inelegant to try to take advantage of such a sensitive issue. Of course, that is up to the interpretation of each individual. What is no less certain is that the mayor of Antwerp declared a war on drugs years ago, and is one of the few public representatives who dares to speak out on this issue without mincing words. Take a look.
People don't want to see that their line of coke is tied to organised crime, says De Vive.
The mayor of Antwerp has even claimed that the federal government is not doing enough to combat drug-related crime because the social elite consumes drugs. He also called on society to reflect on the fact that drug use has been normalised and demanded more resources from the government to strengthen security in the port of Antwerp, and more powers for cities and municipalities to deal with the violence unleashed by drug traffickers. The fact is that De Vive has become the champion against the narco empire, and keep in mind that right now that could have important implications. For example, in the latest federal elections, the new Flemish alliance was weighed down by the great rise of a radical far-right pro-independence party, the Vlaams Belang, which was isolated from the politics of pacts for having a past in which it was outlawed for being racist. Well, now De Vive wants to prevent this rise from continuing in the next elections, and here his anti-narco campaign could come in handy.
Confederalism or nothing. Bart de Wever warns ahead of the 2024 elections.
De Vive wants the Belgian state to become a confederation of Flanders and Wallonia in order to be able to govern the Flemish region completely autonomously. And we know what that nothing means in Belgian politics. Without the new Flemish alliance and the far-right pro-independence Vlaams Belang in the equation to form a coalition government, it looks as if Belgium may face another major political crisis with an incumbent government that will be prolonged sine die due to the fact of agreement to form a new cabinet after the elections. Be that as it may, there is still time for that, and for the moment, Antwerp has more pressing problems. Problems like this one.
Customs sees so much cocaine in Belgium that incinerators can no longer keep up.
It's hard to believe, but Belgium's incinerators are incapable of putting an end to what the Antwerp prosecutor has dubbed the cocaine mountain. The incinerators have neither the capacity to burn so much cocaine, nor do the environmental restrictions for the destruction of large quantities of drugs allow it. All of this raises security concerns, as it is feared that criminal organizations may now attack these sites to recover some of the seized tons. The good news is that Vivaldi seems to be reacting. Firstly, because the federal government has moved to increase drug incineration capacity, and fundamentally because it has pledged resources to fight drug trafficking.
16th of September 2022. Belgian government unveils plan to fight organised crime.
The Vivaldi has pledged 300 million euros for a plan called XXL. It will be invested in bringing more than 100 customs officers to the port of Antwerp and adding 5 more fixed scanners near the port terminals so that at least all suspects can be inspected. Vivaldi has also heeded the requests of the mayor of Antwerp, and from now on, municipalities will be authorized to order the closure of businesses suspected of having links with drug rings. We're talking about pizzerias, coffee shops, hairdressers that are always empty but never close because they simply serve to launder a part of the drug money. I'm sure that even if you don't live in Antwerp, you also know of such a business. Whatever the case, the questions are now over to you. Do you think these measures will be enough to stop drug trafficking in Antwerp, or do you think the underworld groups are always one step ahead of the police? You can leave us your answers in the comments. If you found the video interesting, please like it. Don't forget to subscribe to VisualPolitik if you haven't already done so. Thank you so very much for being there. All the best. I'm seeing you next time.